Yes. So we are talking about sequences. And in the sequences, I said you how to work with a list. So we are using, I said what is a list is and how to work with the list is, right? And we are talking about how to read the elements from the list. I said you can read the elements from the list by using index. You have a different approaches, right, for reading elements from the list. Now, first one is using index, and second one is using slicing, and third one is using iterator, and fourth one is using enumerate, and fifth one is using what here for loop. So these are the different ways in which you can read elements from the list. And if you want to add anything into the list, you can use append method. Now append is called as a mutable method where you can add the element. But how many elements you can add using append? Only one element. How many elements you can add using append is only one element you can add it by using append. You cannot able to add more than one element. So you can able to add how many elements here? Only one element. Only one element using append method, not multiple elements. Suppose, assume that, suppose assume that I want to write a program to read, read n integers and add or append it to list or add it to which one? List. Write a program to read how many integers here? N integers, and add those integers to the list. Add those integers to the list. So what I'm saying here, write a program to read n integers. And after you have to read n integers and you have to add those integers to what list. You have to read n integers and you have to add this integers to what here list. So what you have to do first here is you have to create one list. So there is a list. This is which list here? Empty list. So how you are creating empty list? By just giving empty square brackets. Or you can create empty list by using which type here? List type. Now this is creating empty list, right? This is creating what? Empty list. Or you can create an empty list by writing empty square brackets. So I have to add how many values into this list? N values. Okay. So I have to read the value of n equal to integer of input. So enter how many integers? Enter how many integers? I'm trying to write like this. Integer of input how many integers? Means you want to read how many integers. Suppose if the value of n is, suppose if the value of n is 5, if the value of n is 5, you have to read how many integers? 5 integers. If the value of n is 5, see, if I enter 5, now in this list I have to add how many values? 5 values. If I enter the value of n is 10, you have to add how many values into this list? 10 values. Okay. So for that, I'm using one for loop. Okay, for in range of n. So how many times this loop get executed? Okay, suppose n times. If the value of n is 5, this range will generate how many values? 5 values. That is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, then this loop is executed how many times? 5 times. What is the first value of I? 0. Then here you add the value. Then what is the next I value here? 1. Then you execute the statement. What is the next value of I? 2. Then you execute the statement. What is the next value of I? 3. Then execute the statement. What is the next value of I? 4. Then execute the statement. So if I enter the value of n is 5, this for loop is executed how many times? 5 times. I'm reading a number. Number equal to integer of input. Enter. Okay, enter any integer. Enter any integer and add this integer to the list. You are adding this integer to the list. How you are adding this integer to the list? By using a method called which one? Append. How you are adding this integer to the list? By using a method called append. Suppose if the value of n is 5, this loop is executed how many times? 5 times. So each time you are reading a number and you are adding that number to the list. Each time you are reading a number, you are adding that number to what your list. Each time you are reading a number and adding that number to the list. Then I try to print. So print list 1. Print list 1. Now if you run this, now enter how many integers. I want to enter 3 integers. That is 10, 20 and 30. Now your list is having how many values? 3 values, right? I try to execute again. I want to input some 7 values. Now 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. Now your list is having how many values here? 7 values. But is it these values are added after creation or not? Yes. It means list is mutable or immutable? Mutable. Mutable means after creating list, you can able to do what? Changes. After creating list, you can able to do changes. That is called as which one? Mutable. Immutable means after creating list, you cannot able to do changes. If you are not able to do changes, that is called immutable. If you are able to do changes, then it's called what? Mutable. So list is what? Mutable. So after creating list, you can able to do some changes, right? Okay. This is a simple example, like adding the elements at what? Runtime. Suppose in the same way, suppose assume that in the same way, assume that these are the basic examples to understand how to manipulate the content of the list. Suppose suppose the question is like this, write a program to read scores of n players and display scores and total score. Display score and what is it here? Total score. So write a program to read scores of how many players here? N players. And after that, you have to display the scores. And along with that, you have to display even which score? Total scores. Okay, now you have to read the scores of how many players? N players. So where you are storing the scores? You are trying to score this inside one list. What is the name of the list here? Scores. Okay, now scores is what here? List. Scores is a list. And inside this list, you should read how many scores, n scores. Read the value of n, integer of input. Enter how many players. Enter how many players. You want to read the scores of how many players. Suppose if the value of n is 5, you should read the scores of 5 players. If the value of n is 10, you have to read the scores of 10 players. Okay. Then I'm trying to write one loop. I'm writing one loop. Now for I in range of n. This for loop get executed how many times? N times. This for loop get executed how many times? N times. If the value of n is 5, yes, the range starts from where? 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Okay, I'm reading the score. S equal to integer of input. Enter what? Score. Enter the score. And this score, you are adding into which one? Scores. Scores dot append score. What is the scores here? List. Scores is what here? List. And inside this list, you are adding the score of each player. Inside this course, you are adding the value of each player, right? Now, after that, you have to find out which one total. Means you have to add all these values or not? Yes. So I take total, okay, total score. Total score equal to what here? 0. Initially, what is the total score? 0. So each time I read, now how can I read? How can I read from the list? By using index or not? Yes. So range of n. Suppose if n value is 5, it will generate what? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm saying a total score equal to total score plus scores of I. What is the total score? 0. 0 plus scores of 0 means first player score. Scores of 1, second player score. Scores of 2, third player score. Scores of 3, fourth player score. Scores of 4, fifth player score. Okay, so how you are reading? How to read values from the list? Yesterday, how to read values from the list? Yesterday I said you can read the values from the list by using what? Index. You can read the values from the list by using index here. What is index? Now list 1 of 0. List 1 of 1. Okay. List 1 for I in range of 0, comma 100. So list 1 of I, right? So reading, how you are reading it? With help of which one? Index. And you are generating index by using which one? Range. So here also you are trying to read. Here also you are trying to read by using which one? Index. For example, okay, assume that, this is a list. Okay, this list, this is which list here? Scores list. And inside this scores list, there is a scores of 3 players. Some 60, 30, and one more is a 20. So what is this index here? 0. What is this index here? 1. And what is this index here? 2. Then total score. What is the total score here? Total score equal to which one? 0. Okay. Now 0 plus scores of 0. What is the value of scores of 0? 60. Now 0 plus 60 becomes what? 60. Then total score equal to total score plus scores of 1 is nothing but 60 plus 60 plus what? 30. So what is the total here? 90. Then total score equal to total score plus scores of 2. What is scores of 2 here? 20. So that is nothing but 90 plus 20 is 90 plus 20 is what here? 110. 90 plus 20 is what here? 110. Right? Now this is how you are trying to read it. Now that is 60, 90, and one more value is a 110. Right? So I try to execute this. So enter how many players? Some 3 players. So first player is 50, second player is 30, and third player is 40. But we have not displayed, right? We have to display. So print format. Now scores are, I try to print which one? So there is one list called scores. Then print format. Okay, total score. So total scores or total score is total underscore score. So enter how many players? Some 3 players. So that is some 50 and 60 and 20. Now you can see the scores are 50, 60, 20. And what is the total score here? 130. But how you are adding the values into the list? You are adding the values into the list at runtime. You are adding the values into the list at runtime by using a method called which one? Append. Using append, you can able to add only one value. You cannot add more than one value. If you are trying to add more than one value, you have to put inside a loop, right? If you want to add more than one value, you have to append inside the loop so that you can able to add more than one value. But you cannot able to add more than one value using append. For example, assume that I created one list here. So list 1 equal to list. Now this is empty list or not? Yes. So I'm trying to say print list 1. Is it this list is empty? Okay. Now can I able to add more than one value using append 10 comma 20 comma 30 comma 40 comma 50? No. I cannot append more than one value. I can able to append only one value. Now it is given error or not? Yes. So list dot append takes exactly how many values? One value. Append takes exactly how many values? Only one value. Em babu, తర్వాత చేసుకోవచ్చు అదంతా. ఇక రూమ్కి పోయి అదే చెయ్యి. మనం వచ్చిందే లేటు. అవునా కదా? వన్ ఆర్గ్యుమెంట్. ఏం చేసినావు రాత్రంతా? ఏం చేసినావు అమ్మా? ఫుల్ బిజీ ఉన్నావు రాత్రంతా? So anyway, now this is how you can append the values. But yes, yeah, just try to understand this. That is adding values can be done by using append. Using append, you can able to add the values. Using append, you can able to add the values. Now write a program. Now write a program to find, write a program to read. Write a program to read. Okay, n subject marks of a student and display minimum marks, and maximum marks. I want to read the marks of one student, not number of students, only one student. Now write a program to read how many subject marks, n subject marks, n subject marks of a student, and then you have to display what is the minimum marks scored, what is the minimum marks, and what is the maximum marks. Minimum marks and one more is what? Maximum marks. So you have to read n equal to input, enter how many subjects, enter how many subjects. You have to read the marks of how many subjects. You have to read the marks of how many subjects. So marks, what is the marks here list? What is the marks here list? But this list is empty, right? What is the marks here list? And this list is empty. Marks is a list, but this list is what here? Empty list. So instead this, you have to read how many subject marks? N subject marks. So how can you add it? By using for loop. For in range of n. For in range of n. So this for loop executed how many times? N times. Okay. So you have to read the marks of each subject. Now subject equal to integer of input, enter, what is that? Marks. And this marks you are adding to which one? List. This marks you are adding to which one? List. Now this list is having how many subject marks? N subject marks. This list is having how many subject marks? N subject marks. Now you have to calculate, or you have to find out which one? Minimum marks. You have to find out which one? Maximum marks. You have to find out minimum as well as what? Maximum. So you can write your own logic for finding minimum and maximum, but Python is provided some predefined functions for finding minimum and maximum. But we'll try to write our own logic for finding minimum as well as what? Maximum. So here I try to declare one variable called minimum marks. So what is the minimum marks here? 0. I try to declare one more variable called maximum marks. And what is the maximum marks here? 0. Minimum marks is 0 and maximum marks is also 0, right? Then each time you should read one value from the marks or not? Yes. For in range of n, this for loop generate what here? Indexes. What is the use of range here? Will it generate this range values or not? Yes. Suppose if the value of n is 3, it will generate how many indexes here? 3 indexes. It will generate how many indexes? 3 indexes, that is 0, 1, 2. Now here you are writing one condition. If minimum marks is what? Less than. If minimum marks is less than the marks of I. If minimum marks is less than marks of